Now, I am going to introduce you to Daniel Goleman's emotional intelligence. Oh my goodness. This is what I use all the time in executive coaching. This is what somebody needs to do to coach some of our public figures. Because some people simply don't have it. They don't get it, and they don't want to get it. What we try and do when we are communication scholars and we are communication coaches is to help people to understand that being nice can be a really good thing until it's time not to be nice anymore. But if you start nice, and you really work within being kind, then you will less often have to get into not being nice. And even not being nice, there's a fine line between how you do it. So this is Daniel Goleman, Goleman, and his whole concept is that what needs to be inherent in all of those quadrants, all of these quadrants here, is a concept called empathy. Empathy. Being able to walk in somebody else's shoes. Being able to think about another person's feelings and experiences and emotions. All right? So as I go through this diagram, I want you to look at this right here. So, Samara, you identified that you have an opportunity for self-improvement. Okay? That means that you right here are in the first stage. And you are more easily now to go to the other stages. Because everything for emotional intelligence begins first with our own self-awareness. Having that awareness. Who we are. What are our strengths? What are our opportunities? What do we know we need to work on? But what do we know? Damn, I'm good at something. Right? And you feel good about that. Now you see this arrow here goes downward. And the arrow going downward says that once we are self-aware, that we are accurate in assessing ourselves. That's why I might say that you may not really be rage. You may be intense anger. Okay? So what is that accurate self-assessment of your emotions and your feelings? All the way into self-confidence. And self-confidence comes in emotional intelligence from talking to people about yourself and to continue to gain as much understanding as you can. All right? That's pretty easy, right? Recognition, self-recognition, being self-aware. That's all part of what we talked about last module. So down here then, you can move downward into, if I know this is how I'm going to respond, I can manage it because I know in advance my triggers. And we all have triggers, right? Oh my gosh, when my daughter was 12 years old, she knew every hot button to push on me and would put me over the edge, and she did it on purpose. Because she was 12, all right? And I had to learn to realize, okay, she's 12. She'll grow out of it, right? And she did. So once we start to recognize, and I recognized that she was doing things purposely, I can manage myself, I can gain my self-control, I can express how I am feeling a response to her without being ugly, without screaming, although I wanted to a few times. and I actually did a few times, learned the hard way, and would sometimes be able to adapt to the circumstance, recognizing that when she behaved in a certain way and her friends were around, she's now got an audience. I got to be careful what I'm going to say now. To which part I might adapt and say, Jen, we will talk about this later. That was one of my favorite phrases. She hated that. You can imagine. The also then is achievement drive. When you are regulating yourself, don't you want to be successful? Don't you want to be effective? You want to be good at what you do. And you want to be good at having relationships. And so if you have a goal, a drive, an achievement to be a productive member of a relationship, a healthy member of a relationship, then you've got an inner motivation. Additionally, then, and here's one of the most important elements for self-management, and this is for my turtles in the room. You get outside of the shell and you take the initiative to step up and do some compromise or discussions to see how you can come to some agreements, okay? But if you stay in your turtle shell and you avoid, you're not going to get anywhere. You're going to stay where you are, okay? So that's the arrow going down. Now, again, we go back to self-aware. Now we see an arrow that's going to go sideways into social awareness. Oh boy. This is when this is when you really can observe emotional intelligence or not. Is when people who really have it stop before they react and they look at, okay, who's in the room? Where are we? What's the time of day and the time going on to have a discussion? What is this person trying to get? Either through a compliance strategy. And so you are stopping and you are saying, I need to be socially aware of what's going on around me before I respond. Who is this person and who is watching? And what are they going to think? How are they going to respond? Yeah, you are caring about what other people think. You absolutely are doing that, right? Because you are socially aware of consequences of you acting out in a certain way and how people are going to evaluate or pass judgment on you. Okay? So for this, again, we've got the empathy. This is where empathy really comes through. So let's say that you are really ticked at me at a grade that I gave you. And I mean, you just happened to see the grade in the grade book before you walked in the classroom. And you're just, like, you're not annoyed, you're now angry, right? And you want to say something. And you're ready to say something. And you're ready for me to pause just so that you can raise your hand and say something. And you're going to do it right then and there because it's top of mind to you. And you got to deal with it. Initiative. Right? But the socially aware person is going to be empathetic to the teacher's situation. You're going to say, oh, maybe she made a mistake this one time, or yeah, maybe she's done this a few times, but you know what? I don't want to embarrass her in front of others. I don't want to call attention to something that, who knows, maybe it really was me. I want to, make sure that I save her face. I don't want to attack her in front of others. So instead of raising your hand and saying something right then and there, you think to yourself, you know what? Probably the smart thing to do would be to meet her in her office. or to send her an email and say, can we talk about this grade? Can you, and here's a phrase, you might want to grab this phrase and keep this in your hip pocket all the time. After the class, you might go up to the teacher and say, can you help me understand why I got this grade? Oh, that's such a great phrase. Can you help me understand why? Because that is not attacking. That is asking for feedback and information. Now, it doesn't mean you have to like what she's going to say, but you're starting in a non-attacking manner to begin the conversation, okay? That means that through that process, you've got organizational awareness, the social structure, the hierarchy, who's in power, etc., and goes into, you have a degree of service orientation. You want to serve yourself by getting the information at the right time in the right place, but you also want to serve the other students. You want to be conscious of how this may not be the right time to air this teacher's dirty laundry. Okay? So you are being service oriented to the other. Okay, so now we've got an arrow that went in this direction, an arrow that came down, and now look at this arrow from self-management goes over to relationship. So what's happening is all of these arrows are going to get you to this box. This is the box over here. When I give you your scenario, I want you to assume that you care about this relationship. And whatever the person has said to you has been a trigger that the relationship is in trouble. Right? So how are you going to respond? So when you recognize that and you want to protect it, these are the things that will be the impetus or the driving force to get you to say, oh my gosh, we don't have to be in this bad situation. You don't have to be mad at me. You don't have to be disappointed in me. You don't have to be afraid of me, whatever is the feeling. Because we, relationship, not I in this instance, but we can work through it, and you switch. And I will take responsibility for what I am contributing to the success and or the failure of our relationship. This is what we call adulting. All right? Okay, so these are the people that we see as inspirational leaders because they value the relationship of their employees, they value their relationship of their vendors, of their customers. They want to make sure that the relationship remains intact. They are interested in developing others as well as themselves. They want to have a positive influence and be a change catalyst for whatever needs to be changed. So look over here. Describe what, if anything, you can or you are willing to do now, all right, to change or to make this work okay. All right, these are the people that when you go through this process, you are good at not only conflict management, but also conflict resolution. Let's get this conflict resolved, all right? And through that whole process, you're going to build teamwork and collaborative bonds in getting work done in an environment where people like to come to work because people get along. All right, any questions? Does that make sense? And you are all thinking this sounds really good on paper, but in the real world, it's really hard. Yeah, but you can do it.